NVDA today at 200. And then we see that at market close, it was 198.69. So yesterday, we thought that even though it was at a very high level, but then the trend wasn't completely reversing. But it seems that today the trend started to have some reverse. The reason that triggered my sell today was mainly so I looked at the MACD line, right? So you see that usually when the orange line, when it gets to this point that its first derivative becomes 0, right? Which is kind of reaching a local maximum, usually it would start to drop. And also, we see that KDJ, right? So KDJ is usually more responsive and faster than RSI responses. But then we see that both RSI and KDJ is having a crossing from a bull trend to a bear trend, right? I mean, this is like a short-term bull trend or a bear trend. It's not really like the entire market sentiment, but I mean, just for the time being, right? So while these three things combined together, that's what triggered my sell today. But then, so we would like to actually go back in history to see that if there were exceptions, especially if when the MACD local maximum is reached, like when the first derivative to be 0 is reached, if there are exceptions that it kept going up. So for example, so this point right here might be a point, May 16th, Friday 2025, when it seems that there was a local maximum reached for MACD bull trend, right? But then we looked at KDJ. Okay, so there was a crossing for KDJ from a bull trend to bear trend, but then RSI wasn't really having any signals. So two of them were confirmed except for RSI. So therefore, it just, came down a little bit and then went up, and then went on going up. So this is probably one case when MACD was reached a local maximum bull trend, and then KDJ had bull bear crossing, but RSI wasn't having any signal, so then the trend was not reversed. And then we tried to went back to see if there were other cases, right? So this one, local maximum, so RSI had the crossing and then KDJ had the crossing. So then there was indeed a small dip, right? So when all three of them signaled, then the dip was confirmed for this March 24th, right? And then we then we come to, I guess this one was probably the April dip, right? The April dip. So April dip. So it went from, this like local maximum was from 120 to this dip to 103. So it's like a $20 dip. And then we come to see this one, right? So this one is a local maximum for MACD trend, bear trend. And then we see that also both crossing from bull trend to bear trend for RSI and KDJ. So there we go. A dip was carried later. And then we might want to come to this one, right? So this one is another local maximum for MACD. But then also some kind of crossing for both RSI and KDJ, right? But then the dip was not carried through later on. So then we might want to actually investigate what are the differences, right, between this one when 3 signals were shown, but then the dip did not happen. So what were the differences? So this one, right, when the local maximum happened and when the dip happened, actually both, like all 3 of them almost happened at the same time, right? But then for this one, when the local maximum was happening, actually, even for the more responsive KDJ, actually the crossing happened later after the local maximum of MACD, because from what I view, right, usually KDJ crossing happened earlier than the local maximum of MACD, because MACD, it seems usually it's either at the same time as KDJ or like had a little bit of delay. But this one, right, when the local maximum of MACD is reached, but then the crossing of KDJ actually did not happen before that. It actually happened a little bit after the MACD maximum. So I guess that's probably marked the difference, right? Like if you really want to find a pattern, right? Either KDJ crossing happened at the same time as MACD local maximum, or it happened a little bit earlier. Usually, probably, if they actually happen at the same time, probably it's a stronger signal, right, of a dip. But then if you actually saw the local maximum of MACD first before crossing KDJ, probably that dip reverse trend wasn't guaranteed. That's probably my speculation right now, but then later on we have to just try to investigate and explore some of the other patterns for explanation, and then we will do an update on that discovery later. So that's it for today. Thanks.